Well, let me thank all of you for coming out tonight. I particularly, Clifton, I want to thank John and Amy, who really went all out and made this possible. So thank you to the two of you for organizing this in such short notice. I think all of us are here tonight because we agree with Callista's statement that this is the most important election of our lifetime. And I think if you had any doubt about that, it should have been dispelled by President Obama's performance today at Chapel Hill, where he once again failed to take responsibility for anything 3.5 years after becoming president. So he was talking to students who are going to have a hard time finding a job because he has created the worst economic recovery since the Great Depression. He was talking to students who are going to have a hard time being able to go to the interview because he has presided over the highest gasoline prices of any president in American history. He was talking to students who are going to spend the rest of their lifetime paying taxes to pay interest on the debt that he has run up. And the closest thing he could come to a solution was to promise to continue subsidizing student loans by borrowing other money, so that in effect he's going to have the Chinese loan the United States the money, so the students in the short run don't pay the full price of the student loan, so the rest of their life they can pay the taxes as workers on the subsidized money. And this is exactly like somebody saying to you, I'm going to let you have a credit card, and by the way, you're not going to pay any interest on it, except that I'm going to take the interest out of your pocket every month. You know, and I was struck today trying to think through how to describe the style and the fundamental dishonesty of the Obama system. And I was reminded of an old movie called The Flim Flam Man. Because basically what he's offering on student loans is flim flam. He's saying, oh, I'm going to really subsidize your student loan. By the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to borrow this money over here, which you will pay taxes on the rest of your life. Now, the average student who is listening to him today is going to pay $300,000 in taxes in their lifetime for interest on the federal debt. That's like buying an entire house politicians get to live in. But they're not going to get to live in. So here they have an administration which makes it less likely to get a job, less likely to be able to afford gasoline, and guarantees their taxes will be higher to pay interest on the debt he's running up. And that's what Obama calls leadership. Now, 4 years ago, he said that he was in favor of marriage being between a man and a woman. He came to a state today where it's a very significant issue in a referendum, and managed to cleverly not say anything about it, but did meet with a leading opponent of it. Because the truth is, he opposes it. He opposes this referendum. But, of course, he's not going to say that because he's very clever, and he assumes we're foolish. Well, I'm here to tell you that we released today a video in favor of the referendum and in favor Let me also say that one of the reasons that we are determined to go all the way to Tampa is to fight for a platform that does have these kind of issues in it, a platform that does include not only the issue of marriage, but a platform that frankly lays out the notion that the Second Amendment right to bear arms should be embodied in a treaty for all human beings everywhere on the planet, because the right to bear arms comes from our Creator, not from government. And let me suggest to you that the folks who are here tonight who are on Social Security deserve the #1 reform of taking Social Security off budget so it is never again part of any negotiation, but instead the trust fund actually pays automatically without politicians threatening senior citizens with withholding their checks. The #2 reform we need in Social Security is to allow younger Americans who are here tonight to have the right to choose a personal Social Security savings account along the model of Galveston, Texas, and the country of Chile. In both places, it's been there over 30 years. People are getting 2 or 3 times bigger retirement amounts. It's their own money. They're in charge of it. No politician can take it away. And it's increasing the strength of the economy because it's real savings put into a real account where it's invested and grows new jobs and increases wealth. And we ought to be committed to freedom and to allowing people to have the ability to protect themselves by controlling their Social Security savings account. And that should be part of the future we can offer younger Americans. Finally, I want to say that we're going to go to Tampa to fight for an American energy independence plan so no future president will ever again bow to a Saudi king. The fact is that the answer to the challenge of radical Islamism has to be strategic. It's not just military. And it has to start by America once again becoming the leading producer of oil and gas in the world so that we are able to be independent of the Strait of Hormuz, so we can say to Europe, China, Japan, and India, you may have a problem dealing with the Strait of Hormuz. We don't. And it's time you figured out how you're going to be involved and how you're going to bear some responsibility for a very dangerous part of the world. An American energy independence plan is also a very key part of creating jobs. If you look at North Dakota, where they now have an enormous breakthrough in the development of oil, going from 150 million barrels in reserve to 24 billion barrels in reserve because of new technology. They're now down to 3.5% unemployment, and that actually understates how good the economy is. They have 16,000 jobs they can't fill because the 3.5% who are unemployed don't have the right skills. So I think it's possible for us to develop an American energy program, keep $500 billion a year here at home, create millions of new American jobs, producing American energy, taking Americans off of welfare and off of unemployment, putting Americans back to work paying taxes. It's the biggest single step towards getting back to a balanced budget when you take people off of government subsidy and give them a chance to earn a living and take care of their family and pay taxes. And in that setting, if we do that correctly, and as the only person in this race who's actually helped balance the budget 4 consecutive years in a row, paying off $405 billion in debt, I believe we can insist on Washington balancing the budget. We can then take all of the oil and gas revenues that come as royalties from federal land and from offshore, and one estimate is in the next generation it will be $16 to $18 trillion in royalties. Literally, for the youngest people in this room, if we did it right, we could create a national debt retirement fund, and in their lifetime, we could pay off the national debt using the money from oil and gas. I can see that young man really likes this idea. That's good. You've got him well trained. So I think there are big important things we should be doing. I think the future under Obama is so dramatically different than the future under conservatism that this is the most important election of our lifetime. Just in terms of who he would appoint as federal judges. The difference between his radicalism and our reverence for the Constitution is really that dramatic. So this is a very key election. Now, we are committed to doing everything we can to ensure that conservatism is in fact fully represented at Tampa, is fully represented in the campaign, and is fully represented in the next administration. But I also have to say tonight, we want to take a minute and thank people here in North Carolina, but also there's states voting today who've been very generous to us. Both Callista and I have had tremendous response in Delaware from people who've been very generous. Callista campaigned in Rhode Island where people were very, very generous to her. We were both in New York. I was in Pennsylvania, which is where I was born, and we had a terrific response there. And we feel a real sense of gratitude to all those folks, and also, frankly, to the 180,000 people who have donated at Newt 2012 at newt.org, which has been a big difference. But I also think I want you all to understand that Governor Romney is going to have a very good night. And it's a night that he has worked hard for 6 years. And that if he does end up as the nominee, I think every conservative in this country has to be committed to defeating Barack Obama. Let's be very clear about it. We had a wonderful visit this afternoon at the Billy Graham Library, and at the which is a remarkable place. If you've not been to it, you really should take time and go see it. It's really, truly, it's equal to a presidential library. It's a remarkable educational place, and it puts you much closer to Christ and to God. And we had a brief chance to chat with Franklin Graham about the great work that he and his father have done for their whole lifetime. I think each of us as a citizen has to take responsibility for protecting the rights of our children and our grandchildren. Callista and I got in this as much as anything because of our two grandchildren, Maggie and Robert. Maggie's 12 and Robert's 10. We really believe every person in this room was endowed by our Creator with unalienable rights. We believe those rights come to you directly from God. And we believe America, in that sense, is a remarkably precious place. And so I want you to know that over the next few days, we're going to look realistically at where we're at. We have worked very, very hard. We've had a lot of support from an amazing number of people. We're going to be here in North Carolina all week. I'm told that there's one event we're doing tomorrow that already has 1,100 seats, and they're all filled up already. So I'm confident we're going to have lots of folks to talk with, and we're going to talk about a lot of key ideas. But I also want to do that as somebody who's a unifier and somebody who's realistic. And so we're going to be talking with, we'll send out an invitation to all of our donors, and when you have 180,000, that's a bunch. I'm very proud of the fact 95% of those folks gave $250 or less. For many of them, it was as big an investment as a Wall Street millionaire maxing out to Mitt Romney. And I'm very proud of all the people who've been helping us. And so I want you to know that we're going to be here through the week, but we are going to think carefully about how we can be the most helpful to this country, and how we can make sure, one, that Barack Obama is a one-term president, period. And two, we want to make sure that we send the best, strongest possible signal to Tampa that we want a conservative platform, and we want the values that go back to Goldwater and to Reagan to be fully represented, because this is about a lot more than just beating one person. This is about ripping out all of the bureaucracy, all of the bad laws, all of the habits of the left that have been crippling this country, and that is going to take a very vibrant, very active conservative movement, not just in the White House, but in the House, in the Senate, in the news media, and in a variety of places. So we want you to know that as citizens, we're going to be right there shoulder by shoulder with you, and that as we think through how we can best be effective citizens over the next week or two, that we're going to rely on you for help and you for advice. But we also want to say clearly, because the news media gets this so confused, I want to be vividly clear. We have, I think, 23 events altogether here in North Carolina this week. We are going to be at 23 events here in North Carolina this week. Thank you all. Good luck, and God bless you.